Leadership every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the greatest FM station in the world, 98.3 FM, The Life. Coming to live from our studio on Hawthorne Drive in Round Lake Beach. Well, folks, always start the Improv Leadership Show with a shout out to our local loyal listeners. Of course, Zach, thank you very, very much for listening. And my younger son, who's actually within radio distance, along with Alec as well. They have some solar-powered radios, actually, so it's kind of cool. So again, Alec, thank you for listening. Zach, of course. Brianna, we had a little conversation earlier tonight. Thank you for listening. We've got the Burbank group. We've got Kathleen. We have Randy, Jim, Debbie, John, and anybody else that might be from Burbank listening. Of course, we've got Tony and Bob, my stepbrothers from RHS. That's Ridgewood High School, class of 1976. And of course, Sam, right down the street. Sam, we thank you for your listenership. A true local loyal listener. And again, just a shout out to your situation. I hope all gets taken care of to your liking in terms of your family. Again, thoughts go out there. Last but not least, of course, my girlfriend, Denise. Thank you for listening and your support. Anyway, Improv Leadership, Ted Schneider. We always start off, like I said, with a shout out. Tonight, I want to do something like life lessons. And I say life lessons because, a lot of, I love advice. I love motivational stuff. I love stuff that hopefully you take one or two items away and go, you know what? That made sense. Or I can put that into my routine. Or, you know what? Maybe that's something I should incorporate into my routine. I mean, we all are just a series. We're made up of a series of choices and habits. And sometimes all it takes is to tweak those habits a little bit, make some better choices, perhaps, and maybe not repeat our mistakes over and over and over again. But anyway, we're going to start with a book, Tuesday Morning Coaching, 8 Simple Truths to Boost Your Career and Your Life. David Cottrell. Read it a couple times. It's actually pretty good. And again, I'd like to just go through the highlights. But Tuesday Morning Coaching, if you want to take a look at the book, he's got about 8 different chapters. And I'm going to review the chapters. And we got a couple of the books called B by A.C. Ping. Also, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten by Robert Fulghum. And if you get a chance, The Book of Awesome by Neil Pasricha. It's really kind of a cool book. Anyway, long story short, we're going to start with Tuesday Morning Coaching. And again, just some tidbits. So hopefully you take something away that says, you know what, that makes sense. And again, this is a coaching thing, both your career and your life. And he says, starts off with, my problems are not unique to me. So there's no reason to be embarrassed or to dwell on where I am. And think about that for a minute. My problems are not unique to me. Yes, you have unique problems, but other people have those same problems. And so, a lot of times we get embarrassed by our shortcomings, or our strengths are great to announce, and our weaknesses or our needs improvement we don't typically focus on. But we're all human. We're all struggling on this planet to survive and find happiness and keep our health as best we can, etc. And it goes on to say that long-term success is not the result of one defining change. It comes from developing the habit of embracing several small, simple truths of success. Interesting, right? A lot of times we think, all I got to do is one big thing and I've got it. No, it's really, as he mentioned, it's developing the habit of embracing several small, simple truths of success. A lot of times it's little things along the path of life that we accomplish, that we succeed at, that we do, that adds up to greatness. He goes on to say, I'll begin growing when I accept the truth about my situation. Now, again, a lot of times we don't believe what's going on in our lives, or we don't, denial is not just a river in Egypt, as they say. But I'll begin growing when I accept the truth about my situation. Doesn't mean you have to, live that situation. But all right, you're in a situation. What am I going to do? As I always say, change it or change you. And a lot of times we have to accept, what's going on in our lives. And at the same point, say, okay, look, I'm going to accept what's going on in my life, but I want to change it. And only you can change it. Don't expect, anybody around you to, have an intervention, let's say, as an example, and change it. You have to want to do it from within. Again, he talks about here, I have the power over where I focus. That is a choice I make. And we do. We have the power over where we focus, the time we spend. And a lot of times you don't realize, that, I have so much time in a day, in a week, in a month, in my life. If I'm not spending that time with the people I want to be with, or with the activities that make me either, grow or bring me happiness, well, then what are you doing? right? You have the power of where you focus. You can sit on social media all day, or you can read a book, or you can get out and take a walk, or you can do something in the yard, or take a bike ride, or call a friend, or visit a friend. Again, you have the power of where you focus. And again, he talks about here, I'm in the driver's seat when it comes to my career and my life. It's true. You are the driver in the driver's seat. A lot of times we don't take responsibility for our careers, our lives, our relationships. We have to. As we've talked about many, many times, your life is a movie. And you can be the key actor, of course, and the director and the producer and the key grip and the lighting guy. You're everybody. That movie is your life. So decide how you want that movie to go. You can decide if it's a G or PG-13 or R, whatever. But at the same point, you can decide to a certain degree how this is going to end up. Will it be a box office smash? At least in my eyes. Will it be a dud? Will it be worth watching later on? And again, not that you do things so that people are going to say, I want to see the story of his life. No, but the point is, you have more power over the direction that your life takes. So just keep that in mind. I'm in the driver's seat when it comes to my career and my life. Again, we're talking about Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. This is WRLR 98.3 FM, The Life. This is Ted Schneider. This is Improv Leadership. As always, it's Tuesday at 6 p.m. Why not? And again, he continues to say, my attitude is important, but I need to change my habits as well. Think about it. You can have a great attitude, but if your habits stink, if you aren't changing your habits, well, guess what? How are you going to change? Okay. What positive outcome is going to occur if you don't change not only your attitude, but also your habits? Again, you can smile, you can be happy-go-lucky, but if you spend all day doing nothing, well, there's your habits. Or if you're always late, or whatever habit you need to work on or change. Attitude is great, but habits have to change as well. And then he says, anyone at my level in any position can give landscape. Anyone at my level in any position can give landscape. I don't understand that one. It says here, I may find myself traveling the extra mile alone, but that's where real success happens. And that's a good point in the book. He might be on that extra mile by himself, but that's where the success is going to occur. A lot of times people give up. They don't continue to chase their dreams or their passions, and they don't want to go the extra mile. You see that at work. You see that with your relatives. You see it with your friends. He's going to take the path of the extra mile. He wants to make sure he finds success. He wants to make sure he achieves his goals. There's that finish line, which sometimes gets pushed back in life. Circumstances change, and this finish line gets pushed back. But as he mentions here, I find myself traveling the extra mile alone, but that's where real success happens. Again, you're a leader. You're not going to follow the crowd. They stop, you're going to keep going. You want to go the extra mile. And that could be customer service. Think about a customer service example. Someone that goes the extra mile to, make things right, to satisfy you, to have a experience that's like no other experience you've had. And it can be at a Starbucks, it can be at a Target, you name it, a tire shop. It doesn't take much to go the extra mile, as an example, and make the customer happy. Again, we're talking about Tuesday Morning Coaching. My name is Ted Schneider on Improv Leadership. We're going through some of the highlights of the book. He talks about here, successful people have an abundance mentality. The key to success are all around us if we pay attention and listen. Again, you can complain, and I don't have this, I don't have that. But really, an abundance mentality says, I've got resources all around me. I've got people I can call. I've got things I can do. I can draw upon if you pay attention and listen. Kind of like improv. Improv is where you're going to use all your experiences, little creativity, to create the environment, who you are, where you are, and what you have in front of you. So unlimited resources, obviously, and improv in life, maybe not as such. Of course, you have almost only so much time, only so much money. He says here, consider it done. Do what you say you'll do. And that's key. Do what you say you will do. And a lot of people aren't accountable today. A lot of people don't realize, look, if I'm going to show up to the party, I'm going to show up. If I say I'm going to, get this to my boss by the 12th, I'll get it to them by the 12th. Or as we always say, beat those expectations, right? Set low expectations perhaps or a little lower, but beat those expectations. In other words, you want to do better than what you say you can. You want to do, it's like Amazon, right? They're going to deliver on Thursday. Next thing you know, you get an email, they're going to deliver on Wednesday. What other company does that? And I'm not a big Amazon fan. I don't use them that often, but when I do, I'm amazed. All right. Not only do they show up and they show up on time or early. So how do you beat that? Again, we're talking about Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. This is 98.3 FM The Life. He goes on to say, integrity is never being ashamed of his reflection. Integrity is never being ashamed of his reflection. And that's, a couple of things here, but let's take it in two parts. One, honesty, integrity. Hopefully that's part of your brand. Hopefully that's part of who you are, what you believe in, and what others see. If you think you're honest and you have a lot of integrity and you put forth something opposite, well, then your brand is going to suffer. But really never being ashamed of my reflection. In other words, you know what? Hopefully you like who you are, and not in a narcissistic way, but you like who you are and based on, what you've done in life, what you continue to do in life, and who you are as a human being. Lastly, success comes from our ability to use our common sense, listen to others, and be consistent in our actions. Wow. Success comes from our ability to use common sense. Those times when you go, I probably shouldn't have. You didn't use common sense. Listen to others. I got some feedback from my girlfriend and her sister about going to physical therapy. Started today, wasn't going to go. I'm glad I listened to them. So sometimes you have to expand your listenership of sorts and really take other people's advice. So again, a shout out to both Denise and Debbie for convincing me to go to physical therapy. I'll continue to go. It was a good, very good session today. But the last thing is, and be consistent in our actions. Nobody wants a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde at work, in a relationship with your family. You can't show up one day and be Dr. Jekyll and the next day be Mr. Hyde. Why? Well, as a father, as an example, your kids are going to go, don't know who's going to show up today, Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. If you've got a group of people you manage or lead at work, well, same thing. People want consistency. They want to know who's going to show up every day. Not, again, maybe Dr. Jekyll and maybe Mr. Hyde. Again, this is 98.3 FM. We're talking about Tuesday Morning Coaching from David Cottrell. Just some of the highlights. It's really simple truths to boost your career and your life. And to me, that's what life is all about. What are you doing to better yourself? What are you doing to better your life? It's a limited time offer, right? Life is a limited time offer. No guarantees, no warranties. There was an expiration date on someplace. I've never been able to find mine. I just went for a complete body scan and she didn't see it either. So it must be a tag hidden under the skin someplace. But my point is, life is a limited opportunity. Limited. That's it. It's not unlimited. Okay. You can say as much as you want and believe how long you're going to live, but really it's day to day. So as the ancient, I think Chinese would say, today is the day. That's it. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow, there's no guarantee. Tomorrow may or may not happen, but today is the day. Today is the day to do what you want. Today is the day to really excel, make a difference, reach out to people, make somebody laugh, make somebody's life better. Again, today is the day. Just keep that in mind. But back to Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. Before we go on, you know what? Let's take a quick station ID. This is 98.3 FM. I'm Ted Schneider. This is Improv Leadership every Tuesday, unless I have to work, which it does happen. And we always do a station ID about this time, so give me a second.
WRLR 98.3 FM LP, Round Lake Beach, Illinois.
Exactly. 98.3 FM The Life. We've been here now. We have our celebration this year, 20 years. Can you believe that? 20 years. We've been on the radio. We've had a station here in the Round Lake area. And amazing the opportunity that it is to do a show and the listenership and the volunteer help from the president, vice president, and everybody else on the board of directors, as well as those individuals that do shows and help out in any way they can. So again, 98.3 FM Life, celebrating 20 years this year, which is a heck of an accomplishment for a small, low-power, nonprofit FM station. Anyway, we're talking about Tuesday Morning Coaching, 8 simple truths, which he says 8 simple truths, but really, are they that simple if everyone doesn't know it? Probably not. Next chapter, complacency is the root of being mediocre. Complacency is the root of being mediocre. That's true. Do you want to be ordinary or extraordinary? Big difference, right? Ordinary or extraordinary. And extraordinary is just extra. So have you gone the extra mile? Are you doing a little bit more than somebody else next to you? But being complacent, being like, that's the best I can do. That's all that's going to happen. Nope, that's it. No more. I can't. Well, that is the root of being mediocre. He says, above all else, he understands without question what is non negotiable in his job and his life. Think about that. People talk about that in relationships, non negotiable, right? He can't smoke. She can't do this. He can't do that. She can't be this. But do we have non negotiables in other areas of our life? Do we put up with more than we want or we should in terms of what we deal with? And again, this is family, friends, relationships, whatever it may be. So again, interesting. He says he knows what's non-negotiable in his job and his life. Again, the book focuses on career as well as your life, and a lot of things in your career and your life overlap. Again, we're talking about Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. He says here, when you make a commitment, you have to be all in. I've talked to my kids about that in particular, and their ringtone is Yoda saying, do or do not, there is no try. And the point is, if you say you're going to do something, you make a commitment, and that can be to show up and give someone a lift. That means show up to a party. That means whatever. Going back to the earlier thing, you're consistent. You do what you say you're going to do. So again, when you make a commitment, you have to be all in. And that goes for anything. That goes for your job. That goes for your life in general, committing to your family, your siblings, your children, your spouse, whatever it may be. I like this part. This is one of my mom's favorite phrases too. Again, this is Tuesday Morning Coaching, David Cottrell. This too shall pass. A lot of times we dwell on what's going on in our lives and it's like, oh, it can be anything. It could be an illness. It could be an ache. It can be work. It can be a family situation. Maybe it's something with a friend, whatever it is. This too shall pass. In other words, it's not going to be permanent necessarily. And a lot of times we drag things out. We don't worry. We worry about it longer than we need to, or we start worrying about it before we have to. And I'll be honest, some things, I'll put it this way. Your future, in most situations, in my opinion, you fulfill your destiny by your thoughts. I'm not going to do well. I'm going to suck at that speech. I'm not going to make it on time. Whatever it is, we have to put the positive out there to hopefully see positive results. But it says here, most people have a tendency to exaggerate the good things and the bad things going on in their lives. A tendency to exaggerate the good and the bad going on in their lives. Yeah, we like to celebrate the highs and the lows. That's what life's all about, right? But, I've always talked about if you get too high, and I don't mean influencing under the influence of any type of substance, okay? I'm saying if you get too high in life, and you do have some lows, well, those lows can get pretty low if you're too high up. The boy who flew too close to the sun. Not the same parable, but you get the point. We do sometimes exaggerate the good and the bad. And that's okay if you realize it. In my mind, if you realize, look, I'm exaggerating or I'm really pushing, what occurred, and I'm going to post it on Facebook as an example or Instagram or whatever social media you use. But at the same point, we really can get low in terms of things that don't go well in our lives. Some of the things that have hurt us or have affected us negatively. Again, Tuesday Morning Coaching, David Cottrell, Ted Schneider, Improv Leadership, 98.3 FM The Life. Just going over some points here. It's okay to fail. Everyone fails at some point, but it's not okay to keep failing. Now, yeah, I get that. You take the Edison issue of how many hundreds and hundreds of times did he try to make the light bulb until he made the light bulb. But I think what he's trying to say here is if you don't learn from your mistakes, if you're not making progress with the mistakes you've made and failing, well, how are you ever going to succeed? You got to take some of the lessons learned from failing, not succeeding, and put it towards your future. It says here, denial only delays success. True. Denial, and that goes for anything, denial about your situation, denial about your capabilities, denial about your financial situation, whatever it may be. Denial, ignoring the problem, right? It's the 500-pound gorilla in the room that you're not going to talk about, will not only delay success, but it actually delays improvement, growth. Think about it. If you do not recognize and admit and really say, you know what, this is not a positive thing, or this is a bad situation, or whatever it may be, you will not have success, but you also won't grow and you won't, blossom into the person you could be or see success in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Could be business, could be a relationship, could be a financial thing, whatever. Again, Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. He talks about success rarely shows up quickly. It appears after trial and error and prolonged effort. Good point. It does not show up quickly. It appears after trial and error and prolonged effort. And by that, think about it. A lot of people go, oh, he was an instant success. What you didn't see, him or her, is the amount of time they spent and what they did behind the scenes and how much effort and how many times they failed. All you typically see by these, startups or someone who's a, wonder child is, the final result. Keep in mind, that's true. Success rarely shows up quickly. Trial, error, prolonged effort, failing, trying something different, being persistent, being a little gritty, having some grit. Again, just keep that in mind. A lot of times we see and go, wow, he's an overnight success. I'm not sure there is such a thing. Now, there are some people that are really lucky and they've had some great ideas, or they've sold some companies for, $14 billion, but they had to start somewhere. It didn't just fall out of the sky, fall in their lap, and I'm yours. It says here, growth and success are optional. And if we choose that option, we have to change. Growth and success are optional. But if we choose one of those options or both, we have to change. You know yourself. You know your strengths, your weaknesses. You know some of your quirks. You know if you waste time someplace. What you do. Writing my book as an example was a good way of saying, you know what? You've made some mistakes. You want to keep making those mistakes? No. Well, you want success in relationships? Well, then you have to make sure that you don't repeat mistakes. And same thing here. Growth and success are optional, but you want to have to change. No one's going to make you change, and you can't change anybody. Lastly, it says successful people never make excuses to justify why things are the way they are, and they don't complain about the things that should be. Sure, successful people are really saying, look, this is what occurred. This is my situation. Here's why it happened. And they take responsibility. And that's something a lot of people don't do in our society, right? Never my fault. It was society. It was the president. It was the governor. It was my, teacher. It was my boss. You need to take responsibility for your life. That goes back to the whole thing about you are in charge of your own career. You're in charge of your life. If you're waiting for something to happen, you're waiting for somebody else, as Mel Robbins will tell you, nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody. Now, I'm not talking if you're stuck in an elevator and you've dialed 911. No, I'm just saying in general, your situation, the hole you're in, you dug. The hole you're in under a lot of circumstances, you have some power to try to climb out of. And lastly, change should be constant and welcomed even when things are going well. Now think about that. Change should be constant and welcomed even when things are going well. A lot of times we don't want to change anything. No, it's going good. Don't change a thing, right? Now, there's some merit to that. If a relationship's going well, you're going to change a whole lot about it? No. But think about your golf game as an example. And they talk about Tiger Woods as an example, which there's probably better people out there, but he's the only one that comes to mind. He had like a long game and a short game like everybody else. I was listening to some guys talk about golf this past Sunday at a party, a pickleball party. And it wasn't like we played pickleball. It was just people that played pickleball and I played pickleball with. The point is, he was talking about how his short game was really not doing well. Long game was great. Well, the same thing with Tiger Woods. The story goes that, let's say his short game was suffering, but his long game was good. So he preferred to continue to work on what was good and get closer to the hole, which means by working on what worked for him best and improving what he did well, he really compensated and did better in the short game because he got closer to the hole. There was no short game. So the same kind of thing I wanted to tell the guy, but I didn't want him to think I was a show off, and I'm not a golfer. I've only been on a golf course once, and it was for a fundraiser. The point is, you have a long game as this example that's really good, and a short game, putting and stuff, that's poor. If you can do even better on your long game, that will automatically improve your short game. So think about that sometimes in life. We sometimes focus on what's horrible or what we're really poor at. If we can even tweak a little bit of what we're good at, tweak a little bit of what we excel at, well, then it kind of overpowers and diminishes and really makes smaller, what we are not so good at. Again, Improv Leadership. This is Ted Schneider. Tuesday Morning Coaching, 8 Simple Truths to Boost Your Career and Your Life by David Cottrell. He talks about here, it says, I've been focused on the possibility of failing and then on succeeding. That has to change now. It's what you focus on. I'm going to fail. This isn't going to work. I can't do this. I can't do that. My kids were growing up. There was no such word. I was like, guys, I don't want to hear I can't. I really don't. I can't do this. I can't do that. Why? Is there a reason? Is your arms, broken? Whatever it may be. But the point is, if you're focused on, it's almost like playing a sport. If you play not to lose, not to make a mistake, you're really not playing to win. And not that winning is everything. The point is, it's where you focus, okay? He says here, if I want easy, I will not achieve success. A lot of people think, you get out of college, I want that corner office, I want a 6-figure salary. Nobody wants to pay their dues anymore. And there's some people that do. I'm just saying in general, there's a feeling. But if I want easy, I'm not going to achieve success. A lot of people think, as I mentioned before, they look at famous people and go, oh, geez, he was overnight, or his family left him money. There's some places in some situations where people are left money, a family business, and they just take it over. But to keep that business going, especially if you're the third generation of a business, most businesses, and I'm saying that have been around a long time, when the third generation takes over, guess what happens? It fails because the third generation wants to do two things: take the money and run. They don't care about the business. It's like, say, my grandfather, then my father, then me. I'll use an example that where it doesn't do that. The Wendellas, the oldest sightseeing boat tour company in Chicago. Mike Borgstrom runs that now. He's the president. His dad ran it before him, and before his dad, it was his dad's dad, his grandfather. Third generation, but guess what? It's not easy, but he's successful because he continues to do something day in and day out, and with hiring good people around him to make it a success. So again, you want easy, you're not going to achieve success. It's doing the right thing, not the easy thing. Is doing what's going to give you what you need. It says here, to attract successful people, I must act successful. That's true. They talk about opposites attract. Not really. Opposites do attract, like on a magnet, the positive and the negative ends. But a lot of times, if you want to attract good people, have a culture of a business, then you have to continue to not only show that behavior and live that behavior and live that life to attract more people of the same and keep things going. Well, folks, again, Improv Leadership. I'm Ted Schneider. You're listening to 98.3 FM. We're talking about Tuesday morning coaching. Let's see here. I can't manage time, but I can manage my attention. That goes back to what he said earlier, right? Can't manage time. And you can manage time, but time is going to tick away no matter what. So really, it's where you focus and it's your attention. You want to have a productive day? Get off your phone. Make a to-do list. On your mark, get set, and go, right? So it's where you put your focus, where you put your attention, where you put your energy, which is going to help you. And hopefully, in that time frame allotted, because you stayed focused, you stayed organized, you prioritized, you'll be successful. He says here, I have to precisely identify my priorities. Yeah, you do. A lot of times in work and in life, we go for the easy things. Well, I got a to-do list of 16 things. What's the first thing? Wash dishes. And there's 3 dishes in the sink. Got it. And that's fine. Okay. It's on your to-do list, but you got to tackle the big stuff too. And same thing at work, right? If you don't like doing something, you can get somebody else to do it. But if it's your responsibility, you got to start. And a lot of times, again, it's where I identify my priorities. I know it's important. I know it's important to my boss, to the business, to myself. It's like exercise. If you get up and say, I'll do it later, and I'll do it tomorrow, and the next thing you know, you haven't exercised for 4 days, that's fine. But who are you kidding? You? Exactly. Nobody else. Again, we're talking about the book, Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. He says here, multitask only if you want to do multiple things poorly. Multitask only if you want to do multiple things poorly. Anytime someone says, oh, I was multitasking, what that means, like on a conference call, a Teams meeting, or a Zoom, you weren't paying attention. You were doing something else while someone was talking. All of a sudden you got called and it's like, oops, I'm sorry, I was multitasking. No, you were not paying attention. Well, folks, Improv Leadership, 98.3 FM Live. I'm Ted Schneider. We always take a break at this point. So we're going to take a little station ID here and some public service announcements. So we'll be right back in about 2 minutes.
WRLR 98.3 FM LP, Round Lake Beach, Illinois.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop.
That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We gotta make moves and make them early. Set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up and stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things.
Start building your retirement plan at thisispretirement.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When you need services and support for your health, housing, education, and more, who can you call in Lake County? 211. It's a one-stop service that connects you to trained expert navigators who will guide you to the resources you need. It's a public service, it's confidential, and it's available 24/7. Call 211 or text your zip code to 898-211. Get connected. Get help. 211 from United Way of Lake County. This message is brought to you by UCC Environmental.
Hi, I'm Country Chuck. Tune into my show Mondays from 11 to 1. I play all the oldies from 50s to current hits here at 98.3 FM, The Life.
The Life 98.3. Life's hits from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now.
Of course. You're talking about 98.3 FM The Life. This is Improv Leadership, Ted Schneider. We're talking about Tuesday morning coaching, 8 simple truths to boost your career and your life by David Cottrell. We ended up with a couple things here. Let's see here. Do it now to attack procrastination. Again, some tips. Hopefully you take one or two away and go, yep, that made sense. And there's the Nike thing, right? Just do it. A lot of times you don't realize, what are you putting off? Why are you waiting? It goes back to the book. What's his name? Not his last name is it Rogan? It's not Jeff. It's not Seth Rogen. It's like Rogan, his last name, I believe. And he talks about now's the time, right? Now is the time to take the opportunity because today is the day, right? The Chinese believe today is the day. There's no tomorrow. There's no yesterday. It's just today. And when you wake up, that day, which would be today, is the day. Squeeze in what you can, seize the opportunity, as they say, or as they say, carpe diem, seize the moment. What else? Let's see. Yeah, do it now to attack procrastination. You can put things off, but at some point you're going to say, I'm not getting my to-do list done. Well, yeah, no kidding. I'm not going to make progress. I'm not going to have success. Procrastination is going to kill you. So they did a recap for the gentleman he was talking to. This author was talking to a guy, and here's his recap. No matter what, I accept responsibility and move forward, right? I mean, it's your life. You got to accept responsibility and move forward. And then some. I give what is expected and then some. I'm going to go the extra mile. I'm going to excel and beat expectations, right? Consider it done. I'm consistent and dependable. Think about that. If that's your brand or part of your brand, you're consistent and you're dependable. A, you'll have a job as long as you want. B, people will come naturally attract you because why? You're consistent and you're dependable. Above all else, I adhere to my values. When someone takes a detour from their values, from their core beliefs, it hurts. It hurts them, it hurts others. So just keep that in mind. From now on, I learn from my mistakes and welcome change. Learn from my mistakes and welcome change. Great concept. Last two things, see it, feel it, trust it, do it. I'm a champion goal setter. In other words, just do it. Don't wait. Beat procrastination and get ahead of the others. And lastly, focus inside the boat. I manage my attention and defeat procrastination. They talk about focus, what's inside the boat. When you're in a boat, you got one thing to focus on. What's inside that boat, right? You can't focus on the ocean. You can't focus on what's going on in the air, the water. If there's a shark, if there's a storm, you can only focus on what's in your boat. Well, the same thing with your life, right? Focus on what's in your life. Focus when you have control over. And you'll be surprised. There's a lot of things you do have control over. As they talked about in the book earlier, not only your attention, but your focus and your attitude and the willingness to change. Again, if you think about some of the core things we just discussed, again, this is Tuesday Morning Coaching by David Cottrell. You have an attitude, but you have to focus and put your attention and make wise choices. If you fail, great, but don't continue to fail. Hopefully you learn from your mistakes and be open to change. Well, folks, 98.3 FM, this is Ted Schnatter on Improv Leadership. We're going over some books I think that'll hopefully give you some life lessons. Now, we're all big people, and if you've reached the age like I have of what I am, I hope you know yourself. I hope you know your strengths, your weaknesses, what you need improvement on, what you do well, what you don't do well, and that you don't continue to do things that either upset other people or that you've gotten feedback on. They go, okay, we talked about this, didn't we? And that could be when you're a kid. Now, when you're a kid, I thought everything was funny, as an example. I still do. So some lessons you don't learn and you don't change. And that's me. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little different. But anyway, book is called B by A.C. It's A.C. Ping. And some good points here, and we're just going to go over a few of them. Number one, be still. How many times, especially myself, I've got, I think, more energy than most people, and it's it's a blessing plus a curse. But sometimes it just pays to be still. Meditate. Take a moment. Shut your phone off. Put your phone away. Lay in a bed or in the lotus position or whatever you have to do. Just be still and let the inner voice come out. Let that inner, what's it all about come out. We're driven to distraction. Think about everything around us that distracts us. Not only sounds and sights. And I talk about that in on my weekly blog. Went to Ontario, Wisconsin a couple weekends ago. My girlfriend, her sister's boyfriend. We got out of the car and it was dead silent. Not a peep. Not an airplane going by, not a car, not kids screaming, not an air conditioner running. Nobody talking, no radios blasting, nothing. Dead silence. And at night, the stars came out. At the night, I marveled at the number of stars in the sky, which I haven't seen because, of course, we have so many, lights by us in terms of street lights and everything else and, porch lights and stuff. So again, be still. And also, we're driven to distraction. Eliminate some of the distraction in your life. Eliminate some of the things that distract you and that are time wasters. We don't realize sometimes the amount of time we spend doing mindless things. Yeah, it's okay to waste some time. But sometimes I'll talk to people and I go, what's going on? I'm just chilling. Well, okay. And that could be a productive use of your time if you're just being still. You're doing some meditation. You're doing some reflection. You're doing some, I just want to eliminate distraction. Take a minute to think about what's going on in my life, in the world. And sometimes, like in my case, the only time I usually do that, I'll do it a couple times during the day if I have an opportunity. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, set my alarm. I'll lay in a recliner right by my desk. So if something does pop, I can hear the Teams message or an email coming in. All I need is 5 minutes or 7 minutes just to relax my body. Sometimes it's a stressful situation with a job. Today was it was kind of a medium stressful day in terms of all the things that occurred. Things that, again, a long story, but let's say medium stress. 5 minutes. Put your head back, recline, set the alarm. And that's all it takes, 5-7 minutes tops, just to kind of reset and just let my mind drift and not think about anything. So again, we're driven to distraction. Try to eliminate those distractions and also be still. Sometimes you just have to be still. Turn off the TV, turn off the radio, turn off your phone, whatever, or put your phone away or the volume down, unless you're on call that week. And just, listen to what's going on. Again, the book is called B.E.A.C. Ping is the author. Find passion. He talks about if you want a life that's fulfilled, that's worth living, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? What do you do that you lose time? I lose track of time because I'm doing this. I'm bike riding. I'm writing. I'm playing the guitar. I'm doing a puzzle. Whatever it is, find your passion. And hopefully your passion is what you're good at as well, or you excel at. I'm hoping that if you've done something for a long time and you really like to do it, you're good at it. And that's a gift. That's not a skill. It's a gift. It's something you do well, and it's a passion. And it shows because the results are there. They're exceptional, extraordinary, not just ordinary. Again, find your passion, and you'll find a life that's really fulfilled. Failure is not an option. He says here, Shakespeare once said, in Measure But for Measure, our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might gain by fearing to attempt. So our doubts are traitors. I'm not going to do it. I can't make it. And that goes if you're running a marathon, if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to ask somebody out, no matter what it is, doubting will just sabotage your efforts. And again, you'll lose the good we often gain by fearing to attempt. So I'm not going to do it. It's not going to work out. I'm not going to bother. How do you know? You have one life, as I mentioned before, and you know that, right? There's no repeats. There's no redos. There's no resets. There could be reincarnation, but again, I don't know about that one. Point is, why not take the opportunity, seize the moment, seize the day, and fulfill some of your dreams? Again, the book is called B, just B-E, A.C. Ping, Embrace Death. It's nothing to die. It's an awful thing never to have lived. Victor Hugo in Les Miserables. And really, there's an American Indian tribe that believes death follows us around everywhere, okay? It's supposed to be just over our left shoulder, and if you look back quickly, you may even get a glimpse of it. Our death follows us, waiting for the right moment. Every now and again, if it sees fit, it taps us on the shoulder to remind us it's there. Embrace death. Again, it's just the same thing about living. No one gets out alive, right? I'm hoping I can be the exception. And again, I've got some powerful will and willpower. We'll see how it works, but no one gets out alive. And we take sometimes life for granted. But if you focus on, death is behind me, and that could be how you drive. That could be jumping off the roof, which I've done and didn't really work out too well. But the point is, death is behind us. And at any minute, your life could end. So why not live your life to the full? So why not take that risk, that opportunity? Why not do something out of the ordinary? Why not find your passion and excel? Again, we're talking about the book B, A.C. Ping. This is Improv Leadership. This is 98.3 FM The Life. I'm Ted Schneider. We're talking about the book, Talk is Cheap. That goes very simply, show and tell. You remember show and tell in grammar school, high school maybe? Probably just grammar school. I don't think we did show and tell in high school. Show and tell. In a relationship, don't tell them what you're going to do. Show them what you're going to do. Show consistent behavior as an example. Show that you love them. Show that you support them. Don't just tell them, okay? If your actions aren't backing up the words are meaningless. So again, show and tell. Talk is cheap. Actions are what people will look at. Look at your children, right? You can tell them one thing and you do something else. It's what they see is what they believe. It's what they see and they're going to do. Same thing with your employees. Same thing with the person you live with. It's show and tell. Show them what you want them to know about you. Show them what you want in that relationship as an example versus just tell them. Again, we're talking about the book B by A.C. Ping. He talks about here, be fit to fight. He says, how badly do you want it? Are you willing to fight for it? Or do you think you can just sit back and expect the world to bring it to you on a platter? As the other author said in Tuesday Morning Coaching, same kind of thing, right? Nothing happens by accident. Success isn't instant. You have to want it. You have to have some perseverance. You have to have some consistency. You fail, you brush yourself off, you get back to it. Be fit to fight. In other words, how badly do you want it? Think about a sports game, right? The team that wins a lot of times in close games really wants it. Think about an occupying force in a country. Look at Ukraine as an example. Not going to talk politics, but there's a smaller country, a smaller force, not as well equipped, but guess what? They're prepared to fight to the end. They are not the occupier, they're the home team. And they've got a lot at stake to keep the Russians out as an example. So again, how badly do you want it? Do you want success, or are you just going to talk about success? Are you going to really put the extra effort in and go that extra mile as they talked about in Tuesday Morning Coaching, or are you just going to go, I don't know. Nothing is an accident. Well, folks, Improv Leadership, 98.3 FM The Life. We always take a quick station ID at 15. So here it is.
WRLR 98.3 FM LP, Round Lake Beach, Illinois.
Exactly. 98.3 FM, Improv Leadership. And we're talking out of the studio on Hawthorne in Round Lake Beach. We're talking about the book B, A.C. Ping is the guy's name. We just talked about how badly do you want it? Again, a lot of times that extra effort, going the extra mile, as they talked about in the other book, as well as being the home team sometimes means a lot. And again, if you want it badly enough, and that goes for success, a business you're starting, a relationship, a job, lose weight, exercise more, whatever it may be, become better at pickleball. How badly do you want it? It says here, belief creates reality. Muhammad Ali once said, I don't have to be who you want me to be. So think about that, right? Belief creates reality. Now, sometimes you can have an inflated view. I get that, all right? We're not talking about that. But if you think about life in general, belief creates reality. It'll eventually become true. You're putting out your future, as I've talked about in the past. You put out what you want to see in the universe, right? You want the universe to reward your behavior and your good deeds and your effort and your sweat. So belief creates reality. And as the old t-shirt says, and Zach, my son, will tell you this, believe and succeed. If you believe in yourself, you believe in your teammates, as an example. Take a sporting example. Think about you're in a foxhole. It's World War II. You believe the guy next to you is going to protect you or help you out or, defend just as well as you are. Belief creates reality. Belief equals success. Believe and succeed. If you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in others, you don't believe in a company, well, guess what? Failure is around the corner. We're talking about the book B by A.C. Ping. Don't flog a dead horse. Anon mentions if you're selling water in the desert and it rains, you stop selling water and start selling umbrellas. Think about that, right? No matter what your plan is, it might be the wrong one. Well, guess what? You got to change, right? And that goes for your approach to a relationship. That goes for a job. That goes for an interview. That goes for whatever you're doing, right? But don't flog a dead horse. Bad idea, done. Not a good situation. You want to get out of it. You got to change it. Well, go ahead and do it. But don't continue to do the same thing over and over again, which we all know is what? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It's called insanity. Let's see here. It says, again, the book is B, A.C. Ping. We're all in this together. A human being is part of a whole called by us, the universe. And think about we're all in this together. Play nice in your drive. Coworkers help them out. Don't take credit for something somebody else did. We're all in this together. Do something nice for somebody. Hold the door open. There's a ton of things you can do that really exhibits your understanding that we're all in this together. Don't use more resources than you need. Think about water, electricity, natural gas. As an example, I guarantee you, before we die, in our lifetime, we're going to see situations where we've never seen before in terms of, the scarcity of water. There's hundreds of millions of people today that do not have access to fresh water. Hundreds of millions. I mean, that's amazing. Go to water.org if you want to see more fun facts on water as an example. The point is, we're all in this together, okay? In terms of, the people you live with in your neighborhood, resources that we use, recycling, whatever it may be, at work. We're all in this together. If we don't work together as a team, be it a sports team, be it a team at work, you're not going to succeed. Individuals can only succeed through the use of others and with the use of others' help. A lot of times I don't think we realize that you see somebody, again, who was successful. They had people help them. They had mentors, perhaps. They had people that gave them a break on rent when they first started their business or gave them advice. I remember many, many years ago, my mom's older brother, Uncle Johnny, invited me to lunch. And he ran 4 car dealerships at one point: Honda, Acura, Ford, and Lincoln Mercury. The mid 80s, he got out of, or early 80s, he got out of the car dealership. His son kept the Honda and did quite well with that, but he went into real estate. The point is, one time we're at a restaurant, he's talking to a guy, and the guy is asking him how to set up a business, how to sell used cars, set up a used car lot. And I just sat there having lunch going, damn, here's Uncle Johnny telling this guy his success in business. Don't know whatever happened to the guy. Was he successful selling cars? Don't know. But the point is, Uncle Johnny gave back. He was trying to help somebody. He realized we're all in this together. And just to be successful and deny somebody else that success or, similar success, why? He had some knowledge. He had some things to impart on others, and he did. He wasn't selfish. He realized if I can help somebody, it's got to come back in terms of a karma thing with me, as well as that was just his personality. Again, to me, it was a cool example to see him, try to set somebody up in business with some of his best practices, some tips. And again, we're all in this together. It doesn't matter if it's resources, if it's, stopping to help somebody. Perfect example. We have to move our cars on Monday and Tuesdays based on street cleaning. My side, you can't park on Monday. The other side, you can't park on Tuesdays. Every through whatever it is, spring through the fall. There was a scrapper truck that is parked there, and someone put a sign, car broke down or my truck broke down. I'll take care of it. Please don't ticket me. So I happened to see my neighbor a few days later, and he goes, I go, can you believe that? The guy's been here like 2 weeks. He goes, yeah, I know. I helped him push it down the alley. I says, what? He said, the guy was pushing his pickup truck loaded with stuff down the alley by himself. Now, I don't know how hard that is, but it's pretty hard to push a loaded pickup truck by himself. So the neighbor not only helped him push it out, then they had to back it up and put it in by the curb. Then he wrote the sign for the guy so he wouldn't get a ticket. Then he drove him to the train station because he was going to try to catch a bus on Lawrence, which is about 3 blocks from the house. Again, we're all in this together. He saw someone who had a need. Not only did he help him push his truck, he wrote a sign and he took him to the train station. So, sometimes we forget what it takes to be kind and what it takes to really make a difference in somebody's life. So just some examples. A couple things here. We're going to end with, we got about 4 or 5 minutes left. All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. A great book. Robert Fulghum. It's Fulghum. Fulghum. Uncommon Thoughts on Common Things. And just a quick thing here. He talks about all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. Number 1, share everything. We just talked about that, right? Resources. Don't be, if you've got something that you can help somebody else with, it could be knowledge, it could be money, it could be whatever. The neighbor a couple of days ago was pulling weeds by hand. And I said, you know what? I got a little left. You want to spray this on there? It worked pretty good. So I gave her the rest of the bottle. She was thankful. Hopefully she used it and saved some time. And it wasn't harmful to the grass and this and that. So share everything. Play fair. Life is not fair. But you know what? Play fairly when you're doing things. Don't hit people. Yeah, it's a good idea to try to reduce the violence in your life. Put things back where you found them. How many times do you do something? You go to somebody's house, whatever. Do you help clean up? Do you help put things back? As a kid, hopefully it's something you learn in kindergarten and you use it throughout your life. Again, we're talking about all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten, 98.3 FM, Improv Leadership. Clean up your own mess. You know what? Don't expect somebody else to clean up your mess. That goes through the rest of your life. Don't take things that aren't yours. Yeah, not a good idea. You see something, you can turn it in, but, stealing, taking things that aren't yours, probably not a good idea for long-term success. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. And it's really say you're sorry in general. You make a mistake, apologize, mean it, be specific, and move on. Don't kind of skirt around the issues, especially if you're in a relationship, especially as a family, someone at work. Bottom line is say you're sorry when you hurt somebody, but also say when you do something wrong, apologize. Wash your hands before you eat. Not a bad idea. Again, hopefully you learned that in kindergarten. Wash your hands before you eat. And now with everything that goes on and what we know as adults, don't want to be a germaphobe, but yeah, it's probably a good idea to wash your hands. And lastly, a couple here. It says flush. That goes without saying. Be courteous. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Not sure about the cookies and the milk anymore. I mean, cookies are sugar, milk. It's like you could be lactose intolerant. So whatever floats your boat, I guess you would do. He talks about here, live a balanced life. Learn some and think some. Draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Live a balanced life. I mean, one of the parts of the book he talks about, again, this is all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. If you lead a balanced life, guess what? You'll be successful, okay? And you'll have a balance, and it's like going to get a education with liberal arts versus just one thing. He goes on, he says, take a nap every afternoon. Why not recharge? When you go out in the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands and stick together. Yeah, it can be dangerous out there. So you know what? Watch out for traffic, hold hands, and be aware of your surroundings. Some girl walking down the street on her phone with next to her head the other day in black, almost didn't see her when I was making a turn. So you know what? Don't think that someone sees you, especially at night wearing black. And lastly, be aware of wonder. There's a commercial out there for, I think it's Airbnb. The world is full of wonder. You need to discover it. And it's a great thought. The world is still full of wonder and you haven't seen it all, right? You haven't experienced it. And the same thing with relationships, the same thing with maybe fulfillment at work or maybe a hobby. The world is full of wonder. Take advantage of what's out there, explore, even at your age. It doesn't matter how old you are. Get out there, do something different, make some changes. And as the other books talked about, why not focus your attention on what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. And if you have to change your habits a little bit, keep your attitude positive, tweak your habits, and make some positive changes and see what happens in your life. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for. This is 98.3 FM The Life. I'm Ted Schneider. This is Improv Leadership. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, Bob Slipke will not be on. He's on Sundays at 10 o'clock instead of right now after on Info Explorers. And that's about it. It's only Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed the show. I will not be back next week because of work commitments. But again, hope you enjoyed the show and pace yourself. It's only Tuesday, some warm weather coming too, so be cool. Thanks for listening. Take care.